Welcome, my name is Dr. Maria Marshall, and I'm going to be taking you through this presentation on evaluating new markets. We tend to think of radical ideas as things that are out of bound and well outside of our comfort zone, and so we tend to dismiss them out of hand. We tend to usually follow more conservative ideas because they fit within our comfort zone. It's something that we know. But radical doesn't necessarily mean bad, and conservative doesn't necessarily mean good. We want to make sure that we evaluate new ideas objectively, and a way to do that is to actually analyze new ideas side by side and actually evaluate them with some key criteria. And then we can determine whether the idea is going to work or not. So for example, let's say we want to expand into a new wine market. We would want to have criteria where we could objectively identify what would be the new market that we would want to get into. So for example, 5 key criteria that I thought would be important are using existing resources, provides enough profit margin, a low-cost product development, increased demand for product, and will lead to a future product line extension. If you have a winery, that is something that would be important to you when you're thinking about expanding into a new market. The next thing we want to do is use these criteria in an evaluation matrix. So we want to rate each criteria using a rating of 0 to 5, where 0 is the lowest and 5 is the highest. And then we multiply them by 4 to get a kind of 100% of percentage points to be able to determine which of our new markets would be the most interesting to get into. A worthwhile idea has a rating between 80 and 100%. You can improve the accuracy of the weighting of the criteria by weighing them. So for example, you might think that having a higher profit margin has a higher weight than using existing resources. It's important to weigh important criteria heavier than low criteria and vice versa. So you want to make sure that you might have some partners that may be interesting or stakeholders, and have them think about how they would weigh the criteria if you need to weigh the criteria. You might think that all of them are equally important, or so they have equal weight. Also, you can also have others fill out the matrix so that you get a good feeling for what are some of the markets that would be more accurate or realistic evaluation of those markets. So here's an example of expanding into a new market and an idea matrix. So we have market 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we have the criteria that I had listed earlier, using existing resources all the way down to leads to a further product line expansion. So you can see that different portions are rated differently. So let's use the first example of using existing resources. Market 1 is ranked 2, which would be low on our criteria. Remember, 0 is low and 5 is high. And markets 3 and 4 are ranked 5, which would be that they are definitely meet our criteria. As you go down, you can see that market 1 has the highest ranking they have is low development cost, is ranked a 4 based on our criteria, and market 4, for example, has a 5. And as you look along the bottom line, you see it's multiplied by 4. You can see that markets 2, 3, and 4 would be viable based on our 80 to 100 criteria. That would be a new interesting. Where market 3 is the one that's ranked the highest. Now you have to determine whether market 3 is more viable by doing a business plan, but at least we can start evaluating these things and thinking about the criteria that we would use to go into different markets. Thank you for listening to Evaluating New Markets.